Hello. Today we have a very special guest from Australia. John Broadbent has over 44 years of experience in manufacturing and he started his journey way back in December 1975. Of course, this was 6 years before I was born. So you could imagine the kind of rich experience that John brings on the table. The last 20 years or so, he's been focusing more on smart industry and manufacturing concepts and has been helping industries and factories of all sizes, right from startups up to conglomerates. So he's been seeing the first-hand change and positive change that these investments have made, both on profitability, longevity, sustainability, and culture. His passion and experience are valued by multiple manufacturers, and he presented keynotes and workshops to companies, industry bodies, and education institutions such as University of Tasmania and University of Queensland. John is also an adjunct professor of engineering at University of Technology, Sydney, specifically responsible for industry liaison for smart manufacturing and Industry 4.0. It is a pleasure to have John and spend his valuable time and sharing his experience with us today. John, once again, I welcome you and thank you for spending your time with me on this conversation on Industry 4.0, John.
Thank you, Rathin, and good to meet you and see you in person.
Great, my pleasure. So, John, I would like to get started. I saw one of your videos on, which is a very interesting term, technology debt. And that's how
Yes.
you're writing on LinkedIn, right? So, I'd be very happy if you could just start off and spend a few minutes on and explain technology debt for us, please.
So in the IT world, a CIO of an organization or a CTO, Chief Technical Officer of an organization, would have a very good understanding of what the next 3 to 5 year roadmap might be for the corporation or for the organization in terms of IT strategy. And they will know that sometime in the future they might need to upgrade their servers or they will need to migrate to the cloud. And they'll have a very good understanding of the costs involved to do that. So they're aware of, how many Windows 7 or XP operating systems they serve in their business, the renewable rate of laptops and monitors and systems and software. And so in their capital expenditure forecast for sort of 3 to 5 years out, they have an understanding of the costs of that technology debt.
Right.
When it comes to automation, that technology debt is often ignored. And so we find, particularly in Australia, we find manufacturers running equipment that might be 20 to 30 years old, and inside that equipment will be either a very old PLC or perhaps even a proprietary controller, originally created by the vendor, the maker of the machine. And so these organizations are running on this equipment without realizing that at some point in time, that equipment will fail.
Right.
And when it fails, the question then becomes, what do I do now? And often those companies, when it does fail, firstly had no idea they were sitting on such a challenging situation. They didn't know that the equipment in their control systems was very old, and they're suddenly blindsided by the fact that they now have a problem and their machine won't work, and sometimes these repairs or replacements can take months.
Right. Happens a lot of times, and I've seen that in India as well. So, of course, the term technology debt basically means when we are trying to push or postpone our upgradations and how do we upgrade the systems, and then, of course, one day it just snowballs into a bigger expenditure than what it could have been. Right.
Massively so. I know people don't like paying for support contracts, which give you access to service packs and patches.
Right.
But that's done for a reason, and it's to keep you up to date so that you don't get 10 to 15 years out of date.
Right.
And as I said in that video on LinkedIn, that company was still running, PCs with Windows 98 in an industrial environment.
Right. Was that a recent one, or was it like a couple of years back, this particular experience?
That was about 10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay. But still, of course, I believe we're talking about PCI slots and outdated machines which were not able to sync up with the SCADA system in that video, right?
Yes, because the PLC was mid to late 90s. The network was mid to late 90s. The network cards were mid to late 90s. Windows 98 was their operating system. And this happened probably around 2009, 2010.
Wow. Right.
So for 12, 13 years, they've been running this equipment without any awareness that it was going to fail. I don't know whether in India you have a similar tax system to us in terms of equipment, but if we buy equipment here like a laptop computer,
Yeah.
we are given 35% depreciation on that computer for say the next 3 years. So after 3 years, the tax incentive, it means the computer's now been effectively paid for.
Absolutely. It happens in India as well. We do have a tax system in India as well. So that goes for all the, including laptops and machineries, equipment, everything.
I will guarantee you, Rathin, that if you looked at Australian manufacturing, 85 to 90% of our production is being done on already fully depreciated equipment.
Ooh.
So what companies will do, they'll get a 20% depreciation allowance. So over 5 years, they've effectively paid for the machine. And the whole idea is then to buy another machine and reinvest with better throughput, better efficiency, better quality, but they won't. They'll sweat the asset for another 10 years.
Oh, okay.
So we have lots of manufacturing happening on very old equipment.
Actually, the same is the case with India. I like to use a term when we talk about Industry 4.0. I would say that many of the manufacturing companies in India are still not Industry 3.0 compliant. But having said that, that actually we can draw parallels from the telecom revolution that happened in India back in early 2000, where majority of the population did not have a landline, right? Forget handheld. But when the GSM revolution and the telecom revolution actually happened, it took the Indian telecom market by storm. People graduated directly from no phone to a handheld device. I think that's something which could probably happen, right? Why not? I mean, in the manufacturing space. Talk about it.
I don't have a landline.
So what happened is people.
That's it.
Yeah, of course. So everyone is now like carrying all the smartphones and everything. So what happened back then is people could directly graduate to a mobile phone rather than having a landline. So similar, I mean, I'm just drawing a parallel from that. Even if an industry is not Industry 3.0 compliant, it can still become Industry 4.0 compliant just by some smart concepts of manufacturing. It's not necessary that you have to go stepwise. You can have a jump. You can have a leap of faith, I would say.
And I'll agree with that on one condition, and that is that the whole idea of Industry 4 is to get ultimately proper visibility into your manufacturing processes. I am having regular battles on behalf of companies with suppliers of equipment from the United States, from Germany, from other parts of Europe, where the supplier refuses to give us access to the source code on the machine.
Oh.
Now, my argument is we own the machine, we own the control panel, we own the PLC, we own the code in the PLC. And if you're worried as a vendor, as a supplier of that equipment, that we might give your IP to someone else, we enter into a perpetual software license agreement, which gives us access to the software, but we won't modify it. But at least we can get the software or the PLC onto our network, and through agreement, the vendor can create an area in the PLC memory where we can mine information, production rates, line speeds, waste counts, the sort of information that we need to feed into our Industry 4 models.
Absolutely.
So companies, unfortunately, are going out and buying equipment that are all closed. It's not open source. And by being closed, these little islands of equipment sit around. And then when you want to put in the secret sauce, as we call it, of Industry 4, which is integration between all these manufacturing systems, so you can see what's going on within the internal supply chain, you can't get information out of the equipment.
Right.
So the two precursor steps for Industry 4 to succeed are you must have computerization,
Absolutely.
PLCs, SCADA systems, and the second step is you must have connectivity. So they have to be on a network. You have to have a Wi-Fi or a local area network or some way to get the information out. And I'm finding even in Australia that quite a lot of manufacturers don't have any Wi-Fi networks, don't have any cybersecurity, don't have any firewalls, don't have any managed switches. So the whole IT infrastructure piece isn't in place, because the IT infrastructure in a business, it doesn't matter how big or small, the IT infrastructure piece is the enabler on which Industry 4 sits. So you've got to have those foundation steps.
Absolutely.
So you could, for example, be a manufacturer that is not going down the Industry 4 path yet, but they now decide as a manufacturer to go and buy a new machine from Europe or India or China. As long as that machine comes in and you can get information from it, you're then okay to start the Industry 4 journey.
True. Perfect. That's actually quite insightful, John. Based on your experience, I'm just trying to, now go into a manufacturer's shoe and trying to understand what do you think has been the biggest challenge that you have faced while. So, suppose I'll give you an example of the biggest challenge that I face in India is the capital expenditure. How do I justify the ROI? Okay. Or sometimes it could be employee resistance because people or employees would feel that, well, why do I need to upgrade, right? So there could be some resistance from people. What is your biggest challenge that you face with a manufacturer or in general observation about the challenges of upgradation?
Firstly, it's apathy. Do I really need to do this? I'm going to coast to retirement because I've got grey hair for the next 5 years and I don't want to rock the boat. So I call it the grey-headed ceiling. But the primary one, the serious one, is if I asked you to build a multi-story building, but we didn't put down the foundations of that multi-story building, you can't build the building. And secondly, you can't live in the foundations. So you have to start with the foundational steps. And if you talk to a CFO and you tell him that the return in the first months for enablement, Wi-Fi, switches, firewalls, cybersecurity, networks, if you tell the CFO in the first 12 months that the return on investment is zero, it's very hard to get started. So you can't sell.
True.
You can't sell the 12-month. You can't sell the 12-month vision. You have to sell the 5-year vision and explain that year 1 is foundation steps, enablement. Year 2 is pilot projects. Year 3 is upgraded plant and equipment. Year 4 is integration, dashboards, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Year 5 is pay dirt.
True.
Year 5 is when we hit the big return.
And Industry 4.0, I like to call it a journey. You can never say that, okay, now I am totally Industry 4.0 compliant. Why? Because there'll always be technology available for upgradation and for your betterment, for the betterment of your plant, for betterment of the productivity of your plant, for enhancing the profitability. So, Industry 4.0 journey begins with a plant, and we have been at the forefront. We have been at the forefront of educating the customers on the benefits of Industry 4.0 for the past 18 plus months. Now, the shift that has happened now is that previously customers were like, okay, I know Industry 4.0, I know I need to go digital, but that's an option for me. I could wait. Like the technology dead term which you use. But now, what has happened is that customers say that no, we understand Industry 4.0 is the only option that we have. So these are not my words. These have come from the customers who are now seriously considering Industry 4.0 and technology upgradation. They say that, yeah, Industry 4.0 is something that we are now seriously considering. One, because of manpower deficit, because a lot of migrant laborers have moved back to their hometown during this era. Two, because automation and upgradation is a one-time cost. It is not a recurring. And of course,
Well,
yeah,
and the evidence for that is what happened in the 1960s to organisation that didn't step onto Industry 3.0, which was PLCs, SCADA, automation, all that. If they were still operating back in the 1960s manual mentality,
right.
they got left behind, and that will happen again. There's no question.
True, true. So now industries are really looking at, when I talk to customers now, we've had so many webinars, we've had a lot of conferences and talking to customers. Now they are seriously considering it because of the fact that now they are aware of the benefits that it bring. And cost is a one-time.
Yes.
Automation and data-driven decisions is something that they want for better quality, not just cost saving, but better quality.
Well, there's a maturity pyramid, and the icing on the cake is the top of the pyramid. And the base of the pyramid is connectivity, computerization,
Yes.
data extraction.
Yes.
Then you go to the next level where you now have information and you contextualize that information for delivery at various levels of the organization.
True.
So a site director's data will be different to an operations manager, different to a line operator.
Right.
The third level, which is not done very well at all, but is done really well in ERP systems like SAP, for example. The third level, I mean, if you work for Infosys and you had exposure to the SAP world, where I had 20 years worth of integration experience with manufacturing in the SAP world, the data stewardship and governance
Yes.
at the ERP level is very strict and rigid. But at the manufacturing level, that middle layer, the third level up in the pyramid, the data stewardship and governance is lacking substantially. So people end up connecting to plant and equipment, and they have process historians, and they collect all these volumes, thousands of tags of data into OSI Pi and Wonderware Historian and Aspen Tech IP21, and none of it gets used
True.
because no one actually owns the data.
Yes.
And then you get to the fourth level, which is now starting to get some insights into really what's going on in your process, and you start looking at some predictive analytics. And then finally, you can get to the top of the pyramid, the icing on the cake, which is the machine learning and artificial intelligence adapting systems that can automatically predict where things are going to go and make changes in advance of that. And you can't get to that final step without all the other four in line first.
Absolutely. It is something like, as you rightly mentioned, the foundation, the beginning has to be really strong. The infrastructure has to be there.
Have to be.
Right. So, John, that brings me to the question, like I'll tell you about my experience, and I would like to understand about yours. Is see, what is a good starting point? So, the infrastructure, the IoT bit, is a good starting point. Or we start off with something like, because what is happening now in India is that people are selling box products, right, which may or may not necessarily work for a company, because let's say company A and company B, identical, same location, all the same machinery, started the same year, would have different set of challenges. So we believe is offering a solution, but to offer that solution, we got to start somewhere. What do you think is a very good starting point for a company to adopt Industry 4.0?
Well, let me answer that by asking you a question.
Sure.
Where do you think the choice of the solution sits in a decision tree? Organisations that make a decision as the first step, I'm going to go with Schneider Electric, Microsoft, AWS, IoT, whatever.
Right.
They're the ones who don't succeed. Because the first decision that an organisation should ask is this: is our business from top to bottom committed to digital transformation?
Absolutely.
If the answer is no, don't worry about the next question.
That's true. That's true. So digital,
because without the leadership and the alignment, the next question becomes redundant. Because the first question is, are you committed to digital? If the answer is yes, the next question is, okay, do we have an advisory body? Do we have a steering committee? Do we have any strategy in place as to how we're going to implement digital transformation, is it going to be in marketing? Is it going to be in customer service? Is it going to be in sales? Is it going to be in HR payroll? Is it going to be at the ERP? Like, where are we going to apply it? And is manufacturing a part of that? Yes, it is. Okay, next question. What are the problems that we're actually going to solve here? Next question. What is the roadmap that we're going to put in place in manufacturing to solve those problems?
Right.
Next question. Can we go and find a platform and a partner that can help us solve these problems?
True.
So the choice of a system is way down the food chain when it comes to making a decision.
Absolutely, John.
And
yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
And I see organisations arguing over who's got the best platform. My answer is, who cares? Get your house in order. Get your house in order and understand that the system is one part of the alignment between people, systems, and processes.
True.
If you have broken processes in your business and you digitize them, you get a digitized broken process.
Yeah. And when we talk about digital transformation, the journey has to get started in a very systematic way. Like we both agree, the foundation has to be really strong. How we try to take it up when we have been associated with a few companies where they said, yeah, we would like to go ahead with digital transformation, maybe or some bit of automation through RPA. We first like to take all the departments on board, at least one representative, preferably the head of that department, if not then anyone from that particular department, as part of the steering committee. That is very helpful because whether or not people realize that digital transformation will directly or indirectly impact each and every department. If not now, maybe at some stage. Why not have everyone on board right from the word go so that everything is very smooth, integration is not a problem, and upgradation, if at all, when a particular department needs to upgrade, the integration and the upgradation is never a problem. Otherwise, integration can be a big issue many a times. And I'm sure you would have experienced this at some point or the other.
It's just human nature. We go and try and focus on one part of the system and we try and fix this little bit. And we wonder why our greatest challenges are never solved. You know, we can't approach these sorts of problems with a point solution or systems thinking that at that point level. We have to approach it with a holistic view. It doesn't mean we do it all at once, but it means we're aware from a change management point of view that we're going to do it in stages, that we have a roadmap, that everybody is aware of how it's going to be implemented, and that we're committed for at least 3 to 5 years. Otherwise, we're just wasting our time and money.
Very well said. That's true. That's true. Yes. So, John, one question which is there in everyone's mind and which is the most topical and most contemporary, I would say, in the current situation. Do you think Corona or COVID-19 would accelerate the adoption of Industry 4.0 or would it remain the same or slow down? What do you think? What are your views on that?
I think while it's been active, it's woken people up to particular situations. For example, I'm aware in Australia that the supply chains from China to us were severely affected. And so all those organisations that fooled themselves into thinking that we could make cheaper in China and gave all their production to China, and now labour costs are increasing in China. We're now looking at reshoring. And I think that reshoring is now going to accelerate because the pandemic has made people realise that when you've got a 60-day supply chain from China and you now have China shut down for 8 weeks because of COVID-19 and now all the backlog has to catch up, we're much better producing in market rather than offshore. And the only way that we can produce in market and be competitive is through automation.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's a one-time cost. I understand labor costs in other parts of the world, in non-Asian countries, is quite high. But if you automate, your upfront cost or capital expenditure is higher, but your operational costs are very much lesser because of automation.
So in 2011, I worked with Coca-Cola, and they built a $60 million fit-for-purpose injection molding facility to make the preforms, which are like a thick wall test tube
Okay.
that then becomes blown into the actual bottle. It's a two-stage process.
Right.
Rather than ship bottles of air around the country, they ship the preform.
Okay.
So 1 cubic meter bin holds 14,500 preforms.
Okay.
And that factory has injection molding equipment from Canada. It has automated guided vehicles from America. It has resin management from Italy. It has vision inspection systems from Germany. Has assembly machines from Germany. It has gear from all over the world, all individual little islands. So my job was to bring all that together, coordinate it into an integrated manufacturing environment well before the whole concept of smart factories in Industry 4 was even done in 2011. And 9 years on, that factory is still world class, and only 5 technicians run the entire factory floor.
My God, that's like quite a number. 5 technicians running the entire show. Wow. This was way back in.
And it fully integrates with SAP.
Wow. And this is in Sydney?
Yes.
Lovely.
And so 9 years later, I take organisations there as a open the door and take them inside with their permission, of course, and they have a look at it, and they come away, 9-year-old factory, they come away with their mouths open. They don't know what to say, that 9 years ago, this approach and technology was going. So Coca-Cola, this $60 million factory, has saved them billions in transportation costs. And they're now winning global packaging awards because of the innovation that this factory can do.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So it's my first-hand experience of those smart factory implementations that, fuel my passion, because I know what can be done, and the organisations that aren't taking advantage of these opportunities are really leaving an enormous amount of money on the table, and they're not being anywhere near as efficient as they can, and they're managing their business reactively.
Yes.
It's the rear view mirror.
Yeah. It's actually great to hear such success stories, Mainly, the 3 key takeaways are one, of course, Coca-Cola being a world leader had adopted Industry 4.0 way back in 2011. That's something which is quite impressive. Secondly, the numbers. Well, a $60 million revenue generating factory is saving billions of dollars. That's mind-boggling. And third, you also mentioned that just a few technicians and a few engineers, maybe 5-6 people running the show? That's also quite impressive. So that's the power of Industry 4.0 and how it can help manufacturing industries in optimizing their cost, in improving the quality, etc. In fact, John, we are in the process of developing an Industry 4.0 ROI calculator, which is helping in estimating how much a particular plant or a unit could save by adopting upgraded technology under Industry 4.0. But gradually, a company has to realize that it will pay back in 2 years or 3 years. But it's going to give them returns year on year after that.
It's like saying in 1870, I am not going to run electricity into my building.
Absolutely.
I'm going to hang on to Industry 1.0 and work on steam, and my competitors are going to have electricity, but I'm going to stay on steam.
True. No computerization. Industry 3.0, no automation. Industry 4.0, no data-driven decisions. No Wi-Fi, right? So
it has to happen.
It has to happen. Of course, it is inevitable. Absolutely.
In your return on investment calculator, one of the things that people tend to miss is the high cost of doing nothing.
Yes, we have to include that. That's a great point. I'll include that. And So doing nothing, it's like, whatever is the, let's say, the turnover of the company, and cost of doing nothing will be at least 50% of that, I would say, just to give it a number.
Kodak, Blockbuster Video, Nokia, Encyclopedia Britannica,
Wow. Yes,
Compact.
yes.
History
Yes.
is littered with organisations that said, "No, we don't want to go there."
Yeah. I just read about, because you talked about Blockbuster, Netflix had said that, they need $50 million back then. But Blockbuster said, oh, are you guys crazy? Today, Blockbuster is nowhere and Netflix is $190 billion firm. Similarly with Yahoo, they wanted to acquire Google once upon a time. And now we all know where is Google and where is Yahoo.
Exactly. When you talked before about cross collaboration in teams,
Yeah.
it's worthwhile you taking a look on the web for a Cisco article where 3/4 of IoT projects are failing.
Okay.
And it was written in May 2017. It's on the Cisco website. And it explains why IoT projects are failing miserably.
Oh.
And one of the key reasons is lack of cross-functional collaboration.
Yeah. So we are taking the right path by collaborating everyone from each department, right?
OT and IT
IT. Yes, they have to.
have to kiss and make up and realize they work for the same company.
Perfect. That's what IoT is all about. IT plus OT. It has to be that way. Yeah.
Has to be. Important for organisations to recognise they're not Robinson Crusoe. The problems they're having, other organisations are having, and to understand they have to approach this whole Industry 4 journey with not looking for solutions, but looking for what are my biggest problems and how can I solve them internally and getting external help, particularly through an advisory board.
That's absolutely right, John. And that's where I think,
And I wish them luck.
Absolutely. Yes, of course. It's been quite an insightful and an interesting session today, John. I thank you once again for your valuable time. And I look forward to collaborating with you sometime in near future.
It's been wonderful talking with you, and keep in touch, Rathin. Good luck with your Industry 4 education.
Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, and take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.